Hello and welcome to 4315. Today we are speaking with Olivia and Sydney, two organizers and pet stylists, about their ongoing struggle to unionize the Aurora Village Petco located in Washington State. This would be the first Petco location to ever unionize. How long have you guys worked at Petco and what do you do there?
So I've worked at Petco for 2.5 years now. I started out as a bather for dogs, and I have moved on to now being a pet stylist pro. So I pretty much just do a bunch of dog grooming, and yeah. I have worked at Petco for about a year and a half now, and I am a pet stylist pro as well. So that just means we take on a little bit more dogs, but we do haircuts on dogs and nail trims and make sure they're in the best care possible.
So I want to start off by talking about Ron Coughlin, the CEO. His company profile says he joined the company as CEO in 2018, spent 4 years at HP, 13 years at Pepsi. He's got a bachelor's in international marketing and a master's in business administration. I listened to a disgusting amount of interviews with this guy before we started our call today. Across a variety of platforms, I saw interviews with him on CNBC, Yahoo, Fox, and tons of other ones. And he had a lot of focus on a lot of different issues. And it was all about inflation, inventory, supply chain, supply costs, demand, marketing, e commerce, and all of these things. And in every single one of these interviews that I heard from him, I didn't hear him one time mention workers and investing in the staff. There was nothing about raising pay, nothing about benefits.
Resilient to inflation and the economy, really? It's that basic for people spending on pets?
That's what history tells us. If you look at the Great Recession years ago, the pet industry was resilient through it. And once again, we're seeing that. There is a relatively timeless trend towards more premium products. One of the presence of COVID is 3 million plus incremental new pets in 2020, and we're seeing elevated pet adoptions, which is fantastic, breeder demand, as well as live animal sales into 21. So what happens is all of those new pets are now an annuity for our category and our business.
So that my question is, what is the pay like? What are the benefits like? And are you making anything close to a living wage for the area? Another part of that question too is, does this have anything to do with why you decided to unionize?
Yeah, it has a lot to do with why we're unionizing actually, because especially for the area we live in like the greater Seattle area, so it's incredibly expensive and the cost of living is going up every single year. My rent alone has gone up like $300 in the last year that I've lived here. And I've had to move apartments a few times because I just can't keep living in the places I'm living. Um, we get paid starting minimum wage for the area. I was hired on at like 16.40. Groomers are paid a little different than the people on the floor, so groomers get an hourly base pay. We get commission pay for the amount of dogs we do in a week, and then we get the tips that people leave us. But our commission is actually taken out of our hourly, so it comes out to a very little amount added on to our overall paycheck. Um, and to make an amount that's livable, for me at least, I have to literally not take breaks, not take my lunches, squeeze on as many dogs onto my schedule as I possibly can to make sure that I'm making enough in that day that I'm going to be able to like make dinner or buy a tank of gas to take care of my animals because the hourly is just it's nothing for this area. And in the 2.5 years I've worked here, I've only gotten a 70-cent raise. And our raises are based on like performance. So my performance review said I exceeded expectations in every single category, and they offered me 70 cents. So really great to hear.
That is absolutely insulting.
It's abysmal.
Yeah, exceeded expectations. Here's 70 cents. You're one of our best groomers in the district. Here's this much money. And I asked them, can I sit down with someone and like talk to them about maybe a higher raise because like I feel like I'm worth more than 70 cents, especially with I had my performance review in front of me with all these paragraphs about how I've been doing in the salon, and they said, no, that's not how it works. We send your performance reviews to HR and they decide how much money we're going to give you. And I'm like, so I don't even have a say. I don't get to like talk to you guys about like what I'm worth. And they're like, no. And for the people on the floor, it's even harder because they're paid, even less than that. My partner works on the floor as a cashier, and he started at like, I believe 15 flat. And he hasn't gotten any raise, which is, he just makes that. And it's incredibly low amount of money, especially when they're cutting his hours and he can barely like get any work as it is. So we definitely need to unionize.
Sorry, you said your commission is taken. Explain that again. So your pay and your commission are tied together. You were saying your commission comes out of your pay?
Yeah, correct. So it's kind of complicated how they do it. They do it so they can advertise like that they pay their groomers a lot of money. Basically, so whatever you make hourly, you do the amount of hours. So I work 40 hours in a week at $16.40 or whatever my hourly is. And then whatever that number is gets subtracted from the amount you do in commission. So usually groomers can do from anywhere from like $1,500 in a week to like $2,400 in a week in sales. And then after that number that you get after you subtract those two numbers, you get a percentage of that, and that's your commission. So as pet stylist, you get 50%, and as pet stylist pro, you get 55%. And it comes out to a very, very small number. I'm talking like less than a couple $100 when you're doing, thousands of dollars in sales for Petco as a company.
So basically, this is incentivizing you to move faster and do more sessions with the dogs?
It's incentivizing you not only to do that, but to like force these like add-ons onto all your clients' packages and like all of their grooming things, some things that their dogs may not even need. It's incentivizing you to like just constantly like push things down people's throats instead of like actually focusing on like, what does this dog need? How often do they really need to get groomed? Like, it's just making you see the animals as a number on your paycheck rather than like something you can connect with, a client you can like form a bond with, and a dog you can like make sure is like actually leaving happy at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
They try and make it seem like this really big thing. They say when you're hired on, they say, yeah, you get 50% commission and your hourly and tips. But it sounds great, but the way they actually do it behind the scenes doesn't really come out like it sounds.
Yeah, and that's also dangerous, isn't it? To be encouraging stylists to be moving that fast and to be taking on that kind of a workload.
Yeah. I'm not sure if Olivia mentioned this, but we also have like a certain amount we have to make in order to get commission. If you don't make a certain amount of money, you won't get your commission at all. So you could be like $1 behind and you just won't get any of your pay for that week.
So you have a quota, basically?
Yeah, it sucks when you do that much work, and especially if you're a new groomer and for some reason you're having a hard time and you weren't able to reach that goal, but you just barely made it or just were barely under it, and you don't get paid for any of your work. Yeah. And they also don't tell you that you have that quota when you're first hired as well.
Well, it also seems like a way to almost punish you guys. Like, what if somebody gets sick and they can't come in for a day or 2 days and, they can go get their doctor's note, they can do whatever, come in with all of the proof that they were genuinely ill. And if you still don't meet that number, you don't get your commission? Or do they make any exceptions for that?
Fortunately, you get your tips. but you don't get your commission.
And that goes as well for like if you have to turn a dog away if it's if it's sick and or if it's on medications, or if the pet parent didn't disclose something when they were booking, like it's too matted to safely groom and we have to turn that dog away for the day. Some of our doodles or dogs we do can be like $110 ticket, and if we turn that one dog away, that's a big chunk of our commission for the week, and it's so hard to fill a time slot when you're turning the dog away at the time that they were supposed to be there, and they don't care if you don't push yourself to fill that time slot, or you don't book yourselves way over the amount of dogs you can safely do in a day, then you're not gonna make enough money. And they really push this in all the grooming salons because they hang up our like numbers at the end of each week, right where everyone in the salon can see like this is how you did in every category, and they mark it off with these highlighters like, oh, this person did really bad, they didn't reach their sales quota, they didn't reach this number of packages sold in a day, or XYZ. And then they star the people who did really great, and they're like, wow, this person's a power groomer, they're doing amazing, but look at all these bad people, we're gonna put marks all over them, and look at all these people's numbers, compare yourselves, and be competitive and fight amongst each other for dogs and such. It's a really negative environment that they put on their groomers.
They will actively read out the list to every single groomer standing in the salon and talk down on the people who are doing bad. Every day or every other day, they will come in with our numbers, like from the day before, and he will say, or they will say, yeah, you guys did terrible yesterday, like to our faces. And sometimes we really can't help that. Like she was saying, dogs get turned away, and we're obviously not happy about it. But it's discouraging when they're telling us we're doing a bad job and they're not trying to perk us up or anything.
Does this ever cause problems for animal welfare issues? Like, are there animal welfare issues that come about because of this because they're incentivizing you to work so fast? Have you ever seen issues where people are working so fast that things get neglected, or anything like that?
I'd say yeah, hesitantly, because I'm a very fast groomer, but I also care about dogs more than I care about like pushing that extra number, I guess. It was a very fine line for me to walk. But I've seen groomers take dogs that are like have a ton of medical conditions and they should be groomed by a vet instead of like at Petco. I've seen groomers send out really bad haircuts because they're just trying to fit as many dogs in as a day. I've seen groomers, cut dogs because they're running behind on time and they're stressed out, and the dog is stressed out because they're feeding off that energy. It's when you walk into a salon where there's a lot of groomers who have so many things on their plate at once, there's a lot of moving parts, and I feel like things are bound to happen as far as animal neglect goes. It's hard because I know most groomers are trying their best to make sure dogs are as safe as possible, but when you're in that environment, it does like eat at you, and you do try and go as fast as possible. But I have seen some things happen as far as like speed goes.
Yeah, and this might even tie into what I was saying earlier about the CEO. I mean, he seems like he's a numbers guy, like he's got like a degree in marketing and a master's in business, and every interview I saw with him, it was all about the numbers, and it was all about everything was about the company, and nothing was ever really about the workers or even the animals. And that might even tie into part of the problem with this, and why, I don't want to speak for you, but maybe this is, maybe not maybe, but this is something that would be fixed by a union, right? Like you bring the union in, and then you don't have to worry necessarily. You don't have to worry so much about these quotas, and you don't have to worry about going so fast, right? Like, is that kind of what you're going towards?
Absolutely. I feel like a big problem with these big box chain store, pet store deals is a lot of people at the top don't actually work with animals. They don't know anything about animals. They don't know anything about grooming. They don't know how to take care of animals. They're just corporate people, and they don't understand what it's like to be in the store on a day-to-day basis. Having a union means that we get to show them what is happening and what is wrong and what needs to be fixed, and they actually have to sit down with us and they have to hear us out. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones we're doing the hard work, and they don't know what's happening, or they do and they just ignore it. There's been so many times we've tried to talk to management and HR, and they just don't listen. They don't care. They've heard it a million times. With a union, we'd have the majority of people in the store who see the things that happen, and we'd be able to communicate with them directly. And then just like having that diverse of a group of people talking about the welfare of the stores and the animals, it's going to bring, change, and it's going to help, in my opinion. Like, that's why we need a union. We need to fix things, because I'm tired of corporate people pushing numbers when we should be worrying about like how many animals are dying or being neglected in our stores, and how many workers can't like pay their bills or eat or fill their car up with gas. Like, it's really bad right
now. Something that's actually kind of funny is before we went public with our union, one of our managers would never come into the salon, never acknowledge dogs or anything. He didn't care. But after we went public, he started coming into the salon, being more friendly, actually like saying hi to dogs, like doing the little baby talk, like, oh, hi, puppy. And it was kind of funny to see that change in him. The difference versus we see you as you only like us for our numbers. But then after, they started to seem more human and actually like pets. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, gotta put on the human face once they realize their employees are doing something about their horrible management. Like, yep.
Yeah.
That actually brings me to what I was going to ask you next. So, when did management actually discover that you guys were organizing? And aside from what you just described, how have they conducted themselves since?
Yeah, I forgot the exact date we went public. I think it was like August 5th or something like that. I should know that. It's important. But it was in the works for a couple months. We were able to keep it secret for so long while we were gathering support, which was amazing, because we were expecting someone to blab to management. But they found out August 5th. We emailed Ron and our district general manager our letter of just saying like, hey, you guys could, recognize us as a union, and we won't have to go through all this. We could just be like friends. We could be cool, right? And then from there, we didn't get a response by the time that we said, but they started working with the NLRB, which was good. Gosh, there's been a lot that has happened since we went public, except they immediately started trying to fight us. They took us to a hearing where they are trying to break up our bargaining unit, which has been our biggest struggle as of yet. I'm getting a little bit sidetracked.
No, go on. No, that's right, perfect.
Yeah, before that, right, before they took us to a hearing and all that, they, like, 3 days after we went public, we all showed up to the store, and all of management was being super friendly with us, super nice, just really chill, when usually it's like they don't see us as people, they barely know our names, things like that. Also, some of the windows in the grooming salon were being tinted, which one of our main concerns on our letter And why we were unionizing is because our grooming salon reaches really unsafe temperatures for the dogs. So 3 of our windows were being tinted. We were being told that they were going to send someone out to fix the AC. I still have yet to see the AC be fixed, but apparently it's in the works. Who knows? Basically in their appeasement stage, figuring out, oh no, our groomers, our whole store is upset and they're trying to do something about it, so let's try and make them happy really quick. Meanwhile, their lawyers are in the background like, oh, hey, how can we break up this bargaining unit and make sure that they can't unionize? Unfortunately, we had to withdraw from our hearing because our subpoenas didn't go out in time and they were able to get through with a loophole, and they did not provide the information our lawyers needed in order to make a claim that would be substantial, that our bargaining unit is valid. So we withdrew for now, and then they took unprecedented action against us when they tried to appeal our withdrawal, which would have made it so that we couldn't refile for 6 whole months. And they're still trying to appeal our withdrawal, which luckily the judge is on our side and is basically saying, no, you can't do that. They're withdrawing, so you have to leave them alone. Obviously, we are still unionizing, so we're just trying to regroup and then refile, hopefully, and then if they drag us to another union or another hearing, we'll hopefully be more prepared.
Yeah, so the union requested subpoena forms right away, but the NLRB did not send them to us until 2 days before the hearing, unfortunately. So because Petco didn't have 5 days notice to respond to the subpoena, they didn't have to fulfill the subpoena, and we didn't have enough information to make a strong case. So it's clear that Petco is trying to drag out the process, and they're trying to find every little technical point they can make to elongate our finalize of our union. Fortunately, we didn't get that 6-month bar, but we are regrouping and collecting all the information we need from each category they're trying to put us in, and making sure all of our paychecks say the same thing, and our hire dates and who we're hired by and everything.
All right, and you guys are organizing with the UFCW. Now, were there any specific reasons behind that choice, and what has the UFCW done to help you prepare for Petco's inevitable union busting?
Yeah, we chose UFCW because they really are quite a large union, and we liked who they were representing and kind of their values as a whole, and how many resources they had specifically. We knew going into this that Petco is a massive company, and if we were going to be the first Petco in the country to do this, then we needed the most support as possible. And we are very lucky that they reached back out to us and they're willing to support us in this. They've provided like any resources we've needed so far. We meet once, even twice a week sometimes. They've been training us on like how to organize. Obviously, it's just a bunch of pet store employees and some groomers, and we don't really know what we're doing. So they've kind of guided us every single step of the way on what we need to do. And a lot of us like barely knew what a union was to begin with, but we were in it. They have made informational flyers for us to hand out. They've given us buttons to wear. They've obviously been doing all the heavy lifting with the legal stuff behind the scenes with the lawyers that a lot of us wouldn't have the funds or the time to do. And specifically our union reps, Ben and Emma, have been so incredibly helpful. We can contact them any time of day with any sort of like question or like concern, and they will respond to us, and they will tell us that, what is going on, they'll ease any concerns we have, because obviously going into it in the beginning, there was definitely a lot of hesitation from some people about like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job if I unionize. Oh my gosh, I'm so scared to unionize. And they made this whole process so painless. And honestly, we wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
Kind of on the flip side of the union, I was wondering if you were familiar with the lawyer that Petco had hired to represent them when you first announced that you were unionizing. The National Law Review said that this lawyer, his name is Ron Holland. He's from a firm called McDermott, Will and Emery. The National Law Review said that he has, quote, counseled many Fortune 500 companies on labor strategy, union avoidance, and responding to union-backed campaigns. And he was also named by the Labor Relations Institute, which if you're not familiar with them, go look them up because they're like this major union busting law firm. He was their top 100 U.S. labor attorney from 2006 to 2017. And the only reason I'm telling you this is because this is who Petco has chosen to represent them, and this is how this is the mentality that they're going into this with. So it doesn't surprise me that your election has been delayed, and it doesn't surprise me that they're pulling out all these dirty tricks to make sure that you can't that your vote is as far back as possible, and that management's being all nice to you now. I guess on that note, I don't know if you have any comments on that specifically, but do you think that you have unanimous support throughout the store? And, right now, do you have the votes to win?
First of all, I love how much money they're pouring into this when they told us they couldn't fix our air conditioner because it would cost too much money.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
I mean, personally, I'm not afraid of them. They can do whatever they want, and they can get as dirty as they want. We're just a bunch of workers trying to prove that they're dirty and they're not, treating us right, and they're just proving that much more by doing all of that. So the more they do that, the more attention we're gonna get. So that's fine. We have nearly unanimous support. We have nearly every single person in the store signed a union card. And I'm so confident in the base of people we have as far as like the initial organizing committee and everyone who has been showing up to meetings and who has been putting in the work. We have nearly everyone in the store wearing a union button. We have such a strong foundation. I don't think we are going to lose this. And at the end of the day, they can pull out all of the tricks they want, and it's fine. We're ready for it. I feel like at this point, we all are like, what happens, we're here for the long run. We're going to fight them, and hopefully we're going to win, because we're just trying to do something positive for the company as a whole. They may not see it that way, but that's fine. They even replied to a reporter, which I think it's so funny that they're doing that, because they replied to a reporter that had like reached out for comment. They said something about how they respect all the diverse opinions and they're looking forward to positive communication with us, or something they said along the lines. So I just think that's so funny. But yeah, we have nearly unanimous support.
What advice would you give, for both of you, what advice would you give to other Petco employees that might be thinking about organizing, or any employees just thinking about organizing in general?
I'd say having a strong base to begin with is going to be your best bet. We started with just a really strong group of friends, and it has helped so much, because any concern, any worry we have, like, hey, I'm feeling uncertain, I'm feeling a little afraid, like, I don't want to lose my job, I can't afford to lose my job. Like, we always have that group to lean back on, and I think that's so incredibly important. And I think that if you just take a minute to realize that, like, this is so much bigger than any of us individually, like, this is going to affect so many other workers in not only like Petco, but probably the pet industry. I know that there's a PetSmart that unionized, so I think just taking those steps to just say, hey, I think we need to unionize is the best thing you can start off by doing, and then just like gathering your close friends in the store and then going from there. I don't know if Sid has anything more clear to say. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say definitely that strong foundation of at least a couple of people is a great start. And another thing I would say is super important is get educated on unions. So when it comes to the point where you're recruiting other people, you know what to tell them and you don't scare them, because a lot of young people work at Petco and they aren't totally sure what a union is. I mean, I wasn't totally sure either when we first started. But keep on reminding people that this is to benefit the workers.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. So where can our listeners go to follow you for updates? And what what can the public do to support you?
Yeah, I think the biggest platform we have right now is our Twitter at Petco United. And then we also have Instagram. It's Petco Workers United. We're trying to start a hashtag, pause over profit, just to gain some more traction with our cause. We're hoping that we can get as many people talking about it so that Petco sees that we have support from everywhere and they'd be more hesitant to start union busting like super rough with us. We're hoping that they're like, hey, our community is talking and they're supporting our workers, so maybe we should just cool down and let them, do this the way it should be done without the union busting. Because at the end of the day, union busting is illegal and it shouldn't be done to begin with. But yeah, our Twitter is the best place to follow us, probably.
We also have a TikTok account called Petco Workers United as well. Again, we're trying to also reach the younger audience on TikTok. So when they start working, you can work at 16 in most states, or in Washington State at least. And the earlier you're educated on it, the better.
All right. That's all really awesome. And we're going to link all of that at the bottom of the episode so that people can reach all of those things directly instead of having to go search it. So that'll all be linked underneath the description. And do you guys have any final thoughts or anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, is there anything that we missed, or?
It's okay if the answer is no.
I guess there has been I guess people are a little confused on what like withdrawing from our hearing means. So we still are unionizing. We just need some time. It's going to take some time. I know we have a lot of people watching us right now, and we are also patiently waiting, twiddling our thumbs, hoping to hear the next steps from all the lawyers and everything like that. It's a really long process we're in, and it's a really stressful one as well. So we just appreciate the community. And yeah.
Yeah, all the public support is awesome. We want as much as we can get. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends. I've been telling people that live in my apartment building. And we also, on our cars, we have support our union, and then our Twitter at. We're just trying to get as much public support as we can, and we really appreciate all of it so much.
If there's a place that needs a union, it's got to be Petco. I mean, everywhere needs a union, but Petco especially needs a union. And unlike a lot of the other places that we've talked to, Petco doesn't even advertise themselves as really progressive, or, there's none of that marketing where it's like, we're, at least I don't see it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but, like with Starbucks and even Amazon to a degree, there's like this sort of progressive marketing, and it doesn't really even seem like they have that. It's all about, just numbers, and I hope you get your union. That's what I'm getting at. It sounds like you really need it, especially with the CEO that you have.
We will.
Yeah,
We're manifesting it. we're
They've
putting
been
into the
bringing
world.
out the progressive stuff ever since we went public. It's so funny. We have this like Petco Facebook page that all the workers are on, and he keeps posting about how his workers are the secret sauce to the company, and he wouldn't be where he is without us, and all this like, you know, stuff that isn't true. Like, he doesn't care about us. We're exploited for our labor, and he knows that, and we know that, and we're all just kind of sitting there having to read it without being able to comment under it, being like, "Hey, be real, dude," you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're hoping to win.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on and talking to us, and we will do a follow-up with this very soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.